Welcome to Tales by Felix, where every story unlocks a new world. Remember to subscribe, like and share. Let's begin. The grand ballroom shimmered with golden chandeliers, their crystals catching the light like diamonds. Waiters in crisp black uniforms moved silently between clusters of laughing guests, their trays heavy with champagne flutes. Ava stood near the stage, clutching her first-ever published book, Whispers of Tomorrow. It was her debut novel, the work that had consumed her for years, and tonight was her celebration. Cameras flashed. Voices echoed. For the first time, she felt like she belonged in the world of literary stars. But even with the noise, her eyes scanned the room. She was looking for one person, her husband, Ethan. He wasn't there. Instead, Jake appeared. Jake, her best friend since college. Tall, rugged, with a smile that could disarm anyone. He wore a suit that looked like it had been made for him, his dark tie loosened slightly around his neck. He walked towards her with a glass of champagne, but his eyes were burning with something more than celebration. "Congratulations, Ava," he said, his voice low, almost trembling. "Thank you, Jake." She smiled, but something in his tone unsettled her. "Can we talk?" His jaw tightened. "Privately." Ava hesitated. She should be mingling with her guests. Ethan should be by her side. But the urgency in Jake's eyes made her nod. They slipped out into a quiet corridor, away from the chatter and music. The muffled sound of laughter followed them until they stopped near a dimly lit alcove. Jake ran a hand through his hair, exhaled sharply, then looked at her as if memorizing her face. "I can't keep this in any more," he whispered. "Ava, I've been in love with you since the first day we met." Her stomach dropped. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "I've watched you chase your dreams. I've watched you marry him. And all this time, I've told myself to stay silent. But I can't anymore. I love you. Leave Ethan, and be with me." Ava's mouth opened, but no words came. "Jake, I know you care about him. But you deserve passion. You deserve someone who will put you first, every single day. I would. Always." Her heart pounded. This was the man who had helped her edit her manuscript at 2 in the morning, the one who had cheered her through rejections, who had believed in her before anyone else. But Ethan was her husband. She swallowed hard. "Jake, you don't understand." "I do," he cut her off, eyes pleading. "I understand more than he ever will. Tell me you don't feel it too. Tell me you don't, and I'll never bring it up again." The silence stretched. Her pulse raced, betraying her. Ava whispered, "Jake, this isn't the time." But Jake saw it, the flicker in her eyes. The hesitation. And it was enough. Later that night, Ava slipped into her home, exhaustion settling in her bones. Ethan sat in the living room, his laptop balanced on his knees. He looked up and smiled, though his face seemed paler than usual. "How was the party?" His voice carried warmth, but also a weariness that worried her. "It was wonderful," she said softly, sitting beside him. "But you weren't there." "I know." He closed the laptop, his fingers trembling slightly. "Ava, I need to tell you something." Her heart sank at his serious tone. He took her hands in his. "The doctors found something. A rare condition. They said, it's serious." Her breath caught. "What do you mean, serious?" "They don't know how long I have. Months. Maybe years. There's no cure." Her world tilted. "No," she whispered. Tears filled her eyes. "No, Ethan, you're healthy, you're strong." "I've been hiding it," he admitted, his voice breaking. "I didn't want to ruin your big moment. But you need to know." Ava's heart shattered. Guilt surged through her veins. Just hours ago, Jake's words had echoed in her ears. And now, Ethan, her husband, her anchor, was telling her he might not live long. She clung to him, burying her face in his chest. "We'll fight this. Whatever it takes, we'll fight." But even as she said it, Ethan's silence told her he had already accepted his fate. A week later, Ethan packed a suitcase. "A trip." Ava's voice trembled. "Now. When you're sick." He zipped his bag, avoiding her eyes. "It's for work. A travel series in Southeast Asia." I've already signed contracts. She grabbed his arm. Ethan, this isn't the time. You should rest. Be with me. He smiled faintly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. I don't want to stop living, Ava. I want to leave something behind. Stories. Adventures. Memories. But what about me? She whispered, her voice breaking. You'll be okay, he said, kissing her forehead. You're strong. But she didn't feel strong. As he walked out the door with his suitcase, Ava felt abandoned. Alone. A storm raged inside her, love for her husband, fear for his life, and the dangerous memory of Jake's confession. That night, her phone buzzed. A message from Jake. You don't have to be alone tonight. Her heart pounded as she stared at the screen. Rain tapped against the windows as Ava sat curled on the couch, staring into the darkness. The loneliness was unbearable. Ethan was thousands of miles away. The weight of his illness pressed down on her chest. Then came the knock. She opened the door to find Jake, drenched from the rain, his eyes searching hers. Ava, he whispered. I couldn't stay away. She should have closed the door. She should have told him to leave. But instead, she stepped aside. Inside, the air between them grew heavy. You don't have to do this alone, Jake said softly, brushing his fingers against hers. I'm married, she whispered, even as her body leaned toward him. He cupped her face, his voice trembling. Then tell me you don't feel anything, and I'll walk away. Her silence betrayed her. And then, with a rush of guilt and desire, she kissed him. The world spun. For a few stolen hours, she let herself drown in the forbidden comfort of Jake's arms. But when dawn came, guilt clawed its way back into her chest. She lay beside him, staring at the ceiling. This can't happen again. Jake turned to her, eyes burning with determination. I won't let you go this time, Ava. Not again. What Ava didn't know was that across the street, behind lace curtains, an old woman sat with a notebook in her lap. Clara, her elderly neighbor, had always seemed harmless, just a quiet figure tending roses in the garden. But tonight, she had seen everything. From the moment Jake arrived, to the way Ava let him in, to the kiss by the window. Her camera clicked. Once. Twice. Again. She scribbled in her notebook, August 14th. Ava. Jake. Affair confirmed. Her lips curled into a thin smile. Poor Ethan, she muttered to herself. He deserves to know. And as she set the camera down, the glow of her lamp revealed something Ava would never suspect, a family photograph on Clara's desk. Clara with Ethan. Her cousin. Ava's hands trembled as she stared at the cursor blinking on her laptop screen. The words had spilled from her heart in a storm of guilt, every sentence like a dagger. She had typed out her confession to Ethan, the affair, the loneliness, the shame. Her tears stained the keyboard as she whispered the words aloud. Ethan, I have to tell you the truth. While you were away, I failed you. I failed us. I let Jake in. I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I can't live in this lie anymore. Please, please don't hate me. She pressed send. The email shot into cyberspace, and with it, her last shred of peace. Moments later, her phone buzzed. It was Jake. Ava, what's wrong? You sound broken. I told him, she choked out. Jake froze on the other end. You what? I couldn't live with the guilt anymore, Jake. He had to know. Damn it, Ava. His voice cracked with anger. Why would you do that? He'll never forgive you. You've just destroyed everything we had. What we had was wrong, she screamed. It was a mistake, Jake. Silence. When Jake spoke again, his voice was cold. A mistake? That's what I was to you. A mistake. Her throat closed. Jake. I didn't mean. But he hung up. Ava collapsed onto the floor, her chest heaving. The walls seemed to close in on her. Her life was unraveling. The front door creaked open. Ava's heart leapt into her throat. Ethan stood there, suitcase in hand, his face calm but unreadable. She scrambled to her feet. Ethan. He set the suitcase down and removed his jacket with unnerving composure. I got your email. Her knees weakened. Ethan, I'm so sorry. He raised a hand. Save it, Ava. I already knew. Her breath caught. You, what? I never went to Asia, he said, his voice steady, almost eerily calm. I stayed in the next city. Watching. Tracking. I knew about the late nights, the messages, the kisses. I knew everything. Ava staggered back, her hand clutching the wall. You spied on me? I had to, Ethan said. His gaze was sharp, cutting into her. You think I didn't notice the way he looked at you? The way you hesitated when he spoke your name? I wanted to see if my instincts were right. Her stomach churned. You lied to me. About the trip. I lied to see the truth, he said coldly. Tears streamed down her face. Ethan, I was weak. I was scared. You left me when I needed you most. And you chose him. The silence between them was louder than any scream. Ethan sat down, his posture heavy with exhaustion. But his eyes gleamed with something Ava had never seen before. There's something else you need to know, he said quietly. Ava wiped her tears, confusion clouding her. What more could there be? He leaned forward, clasping his hands together. I'm not just a travel blogger, Ava. That was always just a cover. My family, we're wealthy. Old money. Generational wealth. I'm the sole heir. Ava froze. What? My lawyer, Mr. Davies, has managed it for years. Investments, properties, businesses, all of it under my name. He paused, his voice cutting like a blade. And now, because of what you've done, you won't see a cent of it. Her lips parted in shock. Ethan, I didn't know. I never cared about money, He laughed bitterly. Don't insult me, Ava. You cared enough to betray me. Whether it was for passion, excitement, or whatever fantasy Jake spun into your ears, you chose him. Her body trembled. Please, Ethan, I love you. I made a mistake. Don't shut me out forever. But Ethan's silence was colder than winter. The next morning, Mr. Davies arrived at the house. Tall, gray-haired, with an air of stern authority, he carried a leather briefcase. His eyes softened slightly when he saw Ethan, but when they flicked to Ava, his expression hardened. We need to finalize some changes, Ethan said, his voice hoarse. Ava's stomach turned. Changes. Mr. Davies pulled out documents, placing them neatly on the table. A revised will, Mrs. Carter. Effective immediately. Her pulse quickened. Ethan, you can't. He cut her off. I can. And I will. She reached for his hand, but he pulled away. Ethan, don't do this. Please. Don't erase me from your life like this. His eyes locked onto hers, filled with both pain and resolve. You erased yourself the moment you opened the door to him. The pen scratched against paper as he signed, the sound like nails dragging across her heart. When Mr. Davies collected the documents, he gave Ava a look that pierced her soul. It was the look of a man who knew every secret, every betrayal, every consequence. That night, Ava sat at Ethan's bedside. His breathing was shallow, his skin pale. The strong man she had fallen in love with seemed to be slipping away before her eyes. Ethan, she whispered, holding his hand. Please don't leave me. Not like this. His eyes fluttered open. He studied her face with heartbreaking gentleness. I loved you, Ava, he whispered. Even after everything, a part of me still does. But I can't forget. Her tears fell onto his hand. Give me another chance. I'll prove it to you. I'll spend the rest of my life making this right. A faint smile touched his lips. You already had your chance. Hours later, as dawn painted the sky in pale pink and gold, Ethan slipped away in his sleep. Ava's scream echoed through the empty house, a sound of grief, guilt, and the crushing weight of consequences she could never undo. The man she betrayed was gone. And with him, every future she thought she had. The funeral was a blur. Ava stood in black, her veil hiding her swollen eyes as whispers circled her like vultures. She looks broken. Do you think she'll inherit anything? Poor Ethan, he deserved better. She barely remembered the condolences, the hollow embraces, or the sympathetic nods. All she knew was that the man she had loved, flawed, distant, but hers was gone. The mansion felt like a coffin after Ethan's passing. His scent lingered in the hallways, his books sat open where he left them, and the silence screamed louder than any words. Days turned into weeks, until one morning, Ava packed a single suitcase. She left without telling anyone where she was going. The city she landed in was small, quiet, the kind of place where no one knew her name. She rented a modest room above a cafe and started working there as a waitress. Every day she tied her apron, brewed coffee, and wiped tables. The customers saw her as the quiet new girl with sad eyes. One evening, her coworker Maria leaned over and whispered, "You look like someone running from something." Ava forced a smile. "Aren't we all?" But at night, as she lay in her tiny bed, she couldn't escape the truth. She wasn't just running from Ethan's death. She was running from herself. News traveled fast, even in small towns. Ava avoided the internet, but gossip had a way of finding her. One afternoon, Maria slid her phone across the counter. "Isn't this you?" On the screen was a blog post. "The widow who betrayed a dying man." Ava's stomach lurched. The article painted her as a villain, a wife who cheated while her husband lay sick, who abandoned him for his best friend. Her name was trending. Her book sales had plummeted. Publishers were distancing themselves. And at the center of it all was Jake. He had gone to the media, spinning the story to save his own reputation. He claimed Ava had seduced him, that he had only tried to be a friend, that she was the reason Ethan had died of a broken heart. Ava slammed the phone down, her hands trembling. "He betrayed me," she whispered. Maria frowned. "Who?" "My best friend. The one I trusted." Ava's voice broke. "He destroyed me." That night, Ava wept until her body shook. She had lost her husband, her career, and now even her dignity. A month passed. Ava kept her head down, pouring coffee and cleaning tables. Then, one morning, Maria burst into the cafe holding a newspaper. "Ava, look." The headline read, "The Secret Fortune of Ethan Carter Revealed." Ava's heart stopped. The article detailed Ethan's immense wealth, hundreds of millions in hidden assets, estates, companies. But what made her blood run cold was the next part. According to his will, none of the fortune was left to his widow, Ava Carter. Instead, the inheritance has been passed to a mysterious recipient, identity undisclosed. The cafe buzzed with whispers. Maria's eyes widened. "You didn't know?" Ava shook her head slowly, her face pale. She stumbled outside, clutching the paper. The words blurred as tears filled her eyes. Not only had she lost Ethan, but now the world knew she had lost everything else too. And someone out there, someone Ethan had trusted, now held the key to his legacy. The bell above the cafe door rang. Ava looked up, and her blood ran cold. "Jake." He looked disheveled, his once perfect confidence shattered. His eyes were wild, his hair unkempt. He slammed his hands on the counter. "You ruined me," he hissed. Ava stepped back. "Jake, you're the one who lied about me. I had no choice." His voice cracked. "After you told Ethan, everything crumbled. My career, my reputation, everyone looks at me like I'm a monster. And then, the will. I got nothing. Nothing." Ava's heart pounded. "You expected to inherit? After everything?" Jake's eyes burned with rage. "He gave it to someone else. Someone I can't find. And I know you had something to do with it." She shook her head. "I swear, Jake, I didn't." He leaned closer, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "You destroyed my life, Ava. And I won't stop until I take back what's mine." Maria rushed over, pushing Jake back. "Get out before I call the police." Jake glared at Ava one last time before storming out. Ava collapsed into a chair, trembling. She knew then that Jake wasn't just bitter. He was dangerous. That night, Ava couldn't sleep. She replayed Jake's words over and over. He gave it to someone else. But who? The answer came the next day when a knock echoed through her small apartment. She opened the door to find Clara, her old neighbor, the woman who had always seemed like a harmless observer. But Clara wasn't harmless at all. She stepped inside, her notebook clutched tightly, her eyes sharp. I suppose you're wondering who inherited. Ava's chest tightened. It was you. Clara smiled thinly. I was Ethan's cousin. He trusted me to watch over him, to protect him. And I did. I saw everything, Ava. Every kiss. Every betrayal. Ava's knees weakened. You spied on me. I documented, Clara corrected coldly. For Ethan. For the truth. Ava's voice cracked. Why? Why destroy me? Clara's eyes softened for just a moment. Because he asked me to. Ethan wanted to know if your love was real. And when it wasn't. She trailed off, her expression hardening again. He chose to leave everything to me. Ava's tears fell silently. The old woman who had watched from behind lace curtains wasn't just a neighbor. She was the executioner of Ava's fate. And now, Ava was left with nothing. Clara sat at Ava's kitchen table, her notebook open, pages filled with scribbles, dates, photographs. Ava couldn't look away from the damning evidence. Every late-night visit from Jake, every stolen kiss, even the night Ava collapsed in Jake's arms. Clara's voice was calm, almost detached. Ethan was meticulous. He asked me to record everything. He wanted to know if your love could withstand temptation. Ava's hands shook. And you told him everything? Clara's eyes narrowed. Not told. Showed. She tapped a photograph of Ava and Jake at the window, rain streaking the glass behind them. When Ethan saw this, he said, "Now I know." Tears blurred Ava's vision. You ruined me. Clara shook her head. You ruined yourself. I was just the messenger. Before Ava could respond, a knock thundered on the door. She froze. Clara gathered her notebook swiftly. Standing in the doorway was Mr. Davies, Ethan's lawyer. His expression was unreadable, his tailored suit impeccable even in the dim light. "Mrs. Carter," he said, his tone clipped, "we need to talk." Clara stood, giving him a knowing nod before leaving silently. Ava gripped the edge of the table, bracing herself. "What more could you possibly take from me?" Mr. Davies adjusted his glasses. "I'm not here to take. I'm here to reveal." Mr. Davies placed a sealed envelope on the table. Ava stared at it, her chest rising and falling with dread. "What is this?" she whispered. "Ethan's final letter to you," Davies said. His voice softened for the first time. "He asked me to deliver it once the storm settled." With trembling fingers, Ava broke the seal. Ethan's handwriting filled the page, elegant, precise, and painfully familiar. "Ava, if you're reading this, it means I'm gone. And it means you know the truth. My fortune, my deception, and your betrayal. But I also know you. I know you're not evil, only flawed. Human. I couldn't bring myself to leave you with nothing. But neither could I leave you everything. So I left you a choice. A test. Mr. Davies will explain the details. If you can prove your heart, you can still inherit what I meant for you. If not, Clara will keep it. This is my final wish. Ethan." The paper slipped from Ava's hands, her tears dripping onto the ink. He still thought of me." Mr. Davies cleared his throat. "Ethan instructed me to oversee a task. A trial of sorts. If you complete it, the inheritance is yours. If you fail..." He didn't finish. Ava wiped her eyes. "What task?" "You must use a portion of the trust Ethan secretly set aside for you. Create something meaningful. Something that honors his legacy. Only then will you earn the rest." Ava's voice trembled. "What does that mean?" Mr. Davies leaned in, his eyes sharp. "You must build a charity for those with rare diseases. In Ethan's name." The weeks that followed tested Ava more than anything before. She had nothing but the small trust Ethan had left, barely enough to cover startup costs. She poured her days into research, learning about rare conditions, talking to families, reaching out to doctors. For the first time since Ethan's death, her grief had direction. But the world wasn't forgiving. Doors slammed in her face. Investors sneered at her scandal-stained name. People whispered that she was only doing it for money. One night, Maria found Ava sitting on the cafe floor, surrounded by rejection letters. "I can't do this," Ava sobbed. No one believes in me. Maria knelt beside her. Then make them. Ethan gave you a second chance, Ava. Don't waste it. Those words lit a fire. Ava threw herself into the project, working long nights, surviving on coffee and sheer willpower. Slowly, painfully, she began to win people over. A doctor who offered his services, a grieving mother who volunteered her story, a donor willing to give a small grant. The charity took shape, the Ethan Carter Foundation for Rare Hope. When the first fundraising event arrived, Ava stood trembling at the podium, staring at the crowd of strangers. She told Ethan's story. His strength, his dreams, his battles. Her voice cracked, but she didn't hide it. For every family fighting a disease without a cure, for every loved one who feels helpless, she said through tears, this foundation is for you. And for Ethan, who taught me that love is proven in action, not words. The applause was hesitant at first, then thunderous. And for the first time in months, Ava felt something she thought she'd lost forever. Hope. The foundation grew faster than Ava could have imagined. Donations trickled in, then poured. Volunteers joined. Families reached out, desperate for help. Ava dedicated the first program to providing financial aid for children with terminal illnesses. She spent her days visiting hospitals, sitting with parents, holding the hands of children whose courage broke her heart. One little girl, Emma, looked up at Ava with wide, trusting eyes. Are you the lady who's going to help me? Ava's throat tightened. I'll do everything I can, sweetheart. In those moments, Ava understood why Ethan had given her this test. It wasn't about the money. It was about redemption. Months later, Mr. Davies visited the foundation's headquarters, a modest but bustling office filled with life. He watched Ava from across the room as she laughed with a group of volunteers. When she finally noticed him, she hurried over. Mr. Davies. You came. He studied her carefully. You've done well. More than I expected. Ava's eyes glistened. I didn't do it for the inheritance. I did it for him. For Ethan. Mr. Davies nodded slowly. Perhaps that's exactly what he hoped you'd say. Weeks later, Ava received a letter in the mail. She recognized the crisp stationery immediately, Davies and Associates. Her hands shook as she opened it. Congratulations! Per Ethan Carter's final directive, you have fulfilled his last wish. The remainder of his estate is hereby transferred to you, to be managed alongside the Ethan Carter Foundation. Ethan believed you could rise from your failures. You have. Ava sank into a chair, tears spilling freely. But when she looked closer, she noticed a second note tucked inside. Handwritten. Not Ethan's, but Davies'. Ava, you were never alone. I guided you where I could, quietly, invisibly. Ethan asked me to be your unseen hand. Every donor you met, every door that opened, every opportunity that seemed too good to be chance. I was there. Not to save you, but to give you the chance to save yourself. And you did. Ava pressed the letter to her chest, overwhelmed. For the first time, she didn't feel like the villain of her story. She felt like someone reborn. Standing before the foundation's banner that bore Ethan's name, she whispered through tears, I'll carry you with me, always. The cameras clicked. The applause swelled. But in her heart, Ava knew the truth. The man she betrayed had been the architect of her redemption. And the fortune she almost lost had become something greater. A legacy. The end.